And welcome to ABC6 Voices. I'm Jawan Strader. Where the Parkland community continues to reel following the deaths of two students at Marjory Stoneman High School. The students took their own lives. Today, we discuss mental health and how our community can provide help and support to those in crisis. Joining me now is MSD student and mental health advocate Kai Korver. You've seen him before on the show, and psychiatrist Dr. Delvina Thomas. Thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Dr. Delvina, before we get to you, Kai, I want to talk to you first. And first of all, how are students doing at MSD following the deaths of two students?
You know, for the past year, it's been an emotional struggle for all of us. And we've really been suffering, but we've really only been focusing on pushing for legislative change. And that's great, but we need to work on building ourselves up. Now is the time, especially since we're seeing that, people who did go through this tragedy and seen everything firsthand are unfortunately committing suicide. We need to have the mental health infrastructure in place to make sure everyone's getting treated and everyone's getting the help that they need. And so that's why I propose the construction of a mental health facility that facilitates a collaborative environment of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy so that everyone can be involved in that experience and that each experience is tailored to the individual.
Now we know that two students have died from suicide there at MSD. We were just talking a moment ago before we began the show, and you were talking about the mood there at the school and the fact that there are students that need help that still have not sought help. Why?
Well, I think that's an issue that's really ingrained in American culture. And even as far as social media, no one posts the things that upset them and no one posts the negative aspects of their life. Everyone wants to put forward that that sense of American bravado, that we're the best and we don't need help, and mental health is for people that are either weak or really have a serious problem. But the fact is that when you're going through, or when you've gone through a national tragedy, you are traumatized. You may be suffering from PTSD, and if that's the case, you definitely need to get help. And there's no excuse for not getting help because you're only hurting yourself.
And we're going to talk about that stigmatism there with Dr. Delvina. And also, you're going to see some numbers there at the bottom of your screen. We do not want to do anyone out there disservice. We want you to call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741 if you are in need of help. And we're talking about that stigmatism there. Don't be afraid to call. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call right now. If you're in need of help, if you're battling something, don't be afraid. And so many students, not just students, but there are grown folks that are afraid to call, feeling that you may think that I'm unwell. You may think that I'm crazy because I need help.
Right.
Why?
And with everything that's happening in America and our world today, this is a time that people need it most. For some reason, stigma is much greater or higher in America than it is in actually some other countries. People are embarrassed to say that they're struggling. They're embarrassed to say that they have everyday stress. They're embarrassed to say that they might have depression or anxiety. And these things actually accumulate and they build, and they can lead to things like dying by suicide or not going to work, not showing up to family events, detaching. And when something as tragic as Marjory Stoneman Douglas, when that occurs, I would absolutely say that every student there probably had a form of acute stress reaction, which then, if there's no intervention, can lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
And we've had you on the show talking about this before.
Yes.
Both of you. We've talked about mental health and PTSD. And if I am going through that, if I am going through PTSD, should I maybe speak with someone about it?
You have to speak to someone. You have to, because it doesn't go away. And I always tell my patients this: if you don't do something about it now, it will rear its ugly head 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It can show up when you least expect it. It actually decreases your lifestyle and how you're able to live. People sometimes walk around angry. They become detached from others. They get sad. They lose interest in things. They have sleeping problems. They can't function as their usual self and be their best self because they have this mental health problem that they're enduring. If our society, and you heard me say this before, we have to be proactive as opposed to reactive.
Right.
If we made it okay, if we had more education in the schools, starting in elementary school about emotions and expressing yourself and teaching kids, what does it mean to be sad? What does it mean to be depressed? What does it mean to have anxiety or nervousness and not want to come to school because you feel a little anxious? When things like this happen, unfortunately, these tragedies, it's a time and it's a moment to talk to other students and other schools and other environments about what do you do if something like this happens to you?
And I think it's important to point out to the both of you here and everyone out there watching, especially MSD students, families out there, that they have provided for you. The Resiliency Center at Pines Trail in Parkland is open daily from noon until 7 o'clock p.m. That is the Resiliency Center. You see it on your screen. Pine Trails Park in Parkland is open daily from 12 to 7 o'clock p.m. And there is a number on your screen, 954-684-4265. That is there for you if you are in need of someone to talk to. This is now only for MSD families, for MSD students who are out there in need of someone to talk to. But we also have the number right there at the bottom of your screen. That is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. We want to provide that for all of you out there. Now, I want to get to these questions, Dr. Delvina, but before I do that, Kai, I got to ask you, man. I mean, you're so strong, but you've gone through this yourself. Have you needed any help yourself? I mean, you've gone through this, yet you're speaking. You hit me up last night saying, Jawan, I got to talk about this.
Yeah, you know, for the past year, I've taken advantage of the therapy resources that I had available to me. And one thing that I really noticed about that, and why I wanted to, ultimately build a facility, is because it came out of a program for people who were quote unquote problem kids. That therapy program was really, it involves a lot of drug testing regularly, and it makes you overall feel like you're being criminalized or punished for getting the help that you need. And so I took that as something that might further reinforce the stigma in this country. And so I said, we have to do it differently, and we can do it better, and we have to do it better. Because if we're going to encourage these people in my community and in the larger the nation to really seek out the help that they need, we need to bring it to them in a way that's palatable and in a way that makes the experience something that's not stigmatized, or not something just for quote unquote crazy people or people who are unwell, but for people who are strong and who need it, and people who can handle themselves. I want to see mental health be handled as anything else. Like if you go to the doctor for when you scratch your leg or you break your ankle,
right?
You need to go to the doctor if your mind is broken, or if something is not working properly. You need to go to the doctor and you need to fix it.
Okay, hold that thought, both of you. We have to take a quick break, but before we do so, again, if you're in crisis, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741. Stay with us for this very important conversation. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Well, we continue our conversation about teens and mental health. And joining me is MSD student and mental health advocate Kai Korber and psychiatrist Dr. Delvina Thomas. And again, if you are in crisis, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's right there at the bottom of your screen, 1-800-273-8255, or text TALK to 741-741. Okay, Dr. Delvina, let's get right to it. The warning signs out there for parents to look for. Of course, the parents need their children to come talk to them. But what are some of the warning signs?
Well, some of the warning signs that they're in trouble, they detach from others, they're not talking to you, they're isolating themselves, they seem different. They lose that usual energy that they once may have had. Perhaps they're crying more, they're sad, they have sleeping problems, they're sleeping more, they're sleeping less, they're having issues with eating. You notice that they're not eating meals, or they're overeating, it seems, maybe for comfort. And they may tell you they just don't feel like their usual self, and they might even talk about suicide, not being here. Yeah,
because you have a list of things for parents out there, questions to their kids. Have you wished you were dead, or wish that you could go to sleep and not wake up?
Yes, yes. So you have to ask these questions so that way you know if your child is hurting and if they're actually considering these things. Asking them if they wish that they were dead, asking if they've pondered about suicide or had thoughts about committing suicide or killing themselves. Also, if they've thought about ways that they will go about doing this or planning.
Yeah, have you had any intention of acting on these thoughts, killing yourself, as opposed to you having the thoughts but definitely not acting on those thoughts?
Yes, and if they have details about carrying out a plan.
And that right there, that is a warning sign. That's something as a parent I should not ignore. My child is not trying to get attention from me, or he's just talking. No, come on, he's going to get over it.
No, take this seriously. Yes.
Take this seriously.
You have to take it seriously. Do not assume or believe that they'll get over it, that all they need is to go. I had a parent tell me one time, I thought, she was just having a bad day. I told her, let's go to the nail salon and you'll feel better.
Wow. Wow, and let's go to some more. Have you started to work out or worked out the details? Or you just said that how to kill yourself. Do you intend to carry out this plan? Have you done anything, started to do anything, or prepared to do anything to end your life right there? So these are a number of things that we should be asking our kids. Any of these.
Yes, you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to ask the questions. Communication, you've heard me say this before, communication resolves all problems. We have to talk, we have to ask questions. Even if they're not comfortable, you have to keep approaching them. And if you can't get through to them, take them to see someone, a professional.
And Kai, and that's why it's so important. That's why you're here this morning. You want to talk about the need to build and construct a facility there in Coral Springs so students, families will have a place to go. This is exactly why you're here. So if they answer yes to any of these questions, they can just go right there. It's right next door. It's a facility for them.
Yeah, you know, we want to build a safe haven and a place of serenity so that when people feel these compulsions and these urges to do harmful things to themselves, that, you know, they can find a place where they're going to be taken care of. Right? And so I want to reinforce that the construction of this facility is not just, I'm not asking you to build any building or any mental health facility. I'm asking you to invest in the security of your children and your community. It's an investment in the overall security of, you know, humanity eventually, because we're planning on spreading this in not just Parkland and Coral Springs, but, you know, the overall national community.
And you said, but in order to do that, you need the help from the people.
Absolutely. You know, we're a nonprofit organization, so that means that we are, in fact, publicly funded. And so if you want to see this happen, you want to have a resource for your child to, you know, if they don't want to talk to you, they can talk to us. You know, you need to help us build this facility and help us get this agenda on the board.
All right, Kai Corper, Dr. Delvina Thomas, thank you so much for joining me this morning for this very important conversation. And for more information on Kai's organization, head to societalreform.org. And to reach Dr. Delvina, you can call her at 305-981-1700 or go to her website at drdelvina.help. Also, the Resiliency Center, we talked about that a little bit earlier at Pines Trail Park in Parkland, is open daily from noon to 7 o'clock p.m. And if you need help or you are concerned about a loved one, call the center at 954-684-4265. And again, if you are in crisis, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number, 1-800-273-8255, or text TALK to 741-741. All right, moving